Welcome to an extraordinary ecological story unfolding beneath the waves of Western Australia. In Shark Bay's vast underwater landscape, one of the world's largest seagrass ecosystems is demonstrating remarkable resilience following a catastrophic marine heatwave. What makes this recovery truly fascinating isn't just that it's happening, but how it's happening. Through an unexpected partnership between ancient seagrass meadows and the gentle marine mammals that feed on them. This is a story that challenges what scientists thought they knew about ecosystem recovery and offers a rare glimpse of hope in our changing climate. Our story begins with disaster. In 2010, ocean temperatures in Shark Bay rose to alarming levels, up to 4 degrees Celsius above normal for more than 2 months. This wasn't just a warm spell. It was a catastrophic marine heatwave that devastated the bay's seagrass ecosystem. Before this event, Shark Bay housed approximately 4,300 square kilometers of seagrass meadows, some estimated to be over 4,000 years old. These weren't just any seagrasses. Species like Amphibolus antarctica and Posidonia australis had formed stable meadows that had persisted for millennia. Then, in a matter of months, approximately 36% of this underwater prairie was wiped out. That's roughly 1,300 square kilometers of seagrass, gone. The ecological impact was severe, not just for marine life that depended on these habitats, but for our planet's climate as well. These ancient meadows had sequestered an estimated 2.4–4.2 million tons of carbon, making them crucial carbon sinks in the fight against climate change. Many scientists feared this might represent an ecological point of no return. Shark Bay's isolation and UNESCO World Heritage status have made it an ideal natural laboratory for studying ecosystem recovery. Dr. Elizabeth Sinclair from the University of Western Australia, who led groundbreaking research published in Nature, Ecology and Evolution, found something unexpected happening. What we're witnessing contradicts conventional ecological succession models, she explains. The recovery isn't following the predicted path, but instead leveraging unexpected biological partnerships. This remote bay, with its pristine waters and minimal human interference, has allowed researchers to observe natural recovery processes unfolding with minimal outside influence. The research team has been able to document how ecosystems might naturally respond to climate extremes when their fundamental ecological relationships remain intact. What they discovered challenges traditional restoration approaches and offers new hope for marine ecosystems worldwide. At the center of this surprising recovery story are dugongs, marine mammals often called sea cows, that typically graze on seagrass. Conventional wisdom suggested these herbivores would further damage the struggling ecosystem through their feeding activities. After all, why would animals eating an already diminished resource help it recover? But nature had other plans. The research team discovered that dugongs are actually facilitating recovery through what scientists call a disturbance-mediated facilitation process. When dugongs feed, they create small divots in the seafloor, approximately 30 centimeters wide and 3 to 5 centimeters deep. These micro-disturbances, rather than further damaging the ecosystem, become crucial nurseries for seagrass colonization. These gentle giants, which can grow up to 3 meters long and weigh over 400 kilograms, move slowly through the seagrass meadows, leaving a trail of these small feeding scars. Between 2016 and 2021, researchers documented over 7,000 such feeding scars across 24 study sites in Shark Bay, creating a patchwork of potential recovery zones throughout the damaged ecosystem. These dugong feeding scars aren't just random disturbances, they're becoming essential microhabitats for seagrass recovery. Specifically, the fast-growing Halodule uninervis species, previously a minor component of the ecosystem, has been using these divots as protected establishment sites. The dugongs are essentially creating thousands of tiny restoration plots, explains marine ecologist Dr. Jordi Boda, co-author of the study. Each feeding scar becomes a protected microenvironment with reduced competition and modified sediment characteristics that favor rapid colonization. Time-lapse photography revealed that within just 3 to 4 months, these feeding scars transformed from bare patches to vibrant microhabitats. Even more remarkably, the density of halodule in these scars often exceeds that of the surrounding meadow, growing 2 to 3 times faster in these dugong-created microhabitats than in undisturbed areas. This creates what ecologists call a shifting mosaic of disturbance across the seascape, with different areas in various stages of recovery at any given time. This heterogeneity increases overall ecosystem resilience by maintaining patches at different successional stages. The relationship between dugongs and seagrass recovery goes even deeper. The research shows that dugongs have actually altered their feeding patterns in response to the changing seagrass composition. Tracking data from satellite-tagged individuals reveals they now spend 43% more time in recovering areas than they did before the heatwave. This suggests a complex feedback loop between herbivore behavior and ecosystem recovery. Rather than avoiding the damaged areas, dugongs are actively participating in their regeneration. This behavioral adaptation wasn't predicted in traditional ecological models. It appears the dugongs may be attracted to the nutritional qualities of the pioneering Halodule species now colonizing the disturbed areas. This creates a mutually beneficial relationship. The dugongs get access to nutritious new growth, while their feeding activity continues to create new opportunities for seagrass colonization. The dugongs' behavior demonstrates the complex adaptive capacity of marine ecosystems when key ecological relationships remain intact. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Shark Bay's recovery is the evidence of rapid genetic adaptation within the seagrass populations themselves. Genetic sampling of Halodule uninervis across Shark Bay reveals that post-heatwave populations show significantly higher expression of heat shock proteins and antioxidant enzymes than archive samples from before the thermal event. This suggests natural selection is actively favoring genotypes better equipped to handle thermal stress, a real-time example of evolutionary adaptation occurring within a decade. The research team identified 27 genes showing strong selection signals, many associated with photosynthetic efficiency under high-temperature conditions. We're essentially watching evolution happen on an ecological timescale, notes Dr. Matthew Fraser, a marine geneticist involved in the study. These seagrasses are adapting to new thermal regimes in a matter of years rather than centuries. This rapid adaptation provides hope that some ecosystems may have more capacity to respond to climate change than previously thought, provided they retain sufficient genetic diversity and are given the opportunity to undergo natural selection processes. The genetic shifts observed in Shark Bay's seagrasses aren't uniform across the entire ecosystem. Populations in the southern, cooler regions show less pronounced adaptive signatures than those in the northern, warmer sections. This spatial variation in adaptation creates what researchers call evolutionary hotspots, where selection pressure is particularly intense. These hotspots may serve as genetic reservoirs, potentially providing more heat-tolerant propagules that could disperse to other regions as ocean temperatures rise globally. The team's genomic analysis also revealed something counterintuitive: increased genetic diversity in recovering meadows compared to stable ones. This contradicts the expectation that extreme disturbance would reduce genetic variation. This unexpected genetic enrichment appears to result from the redistribution of fragments from diverse source populations and possibly the activation of dormant seed banks that had accumulated over centuries. Some of these seeds may have remained viable but dormant in the sediment for decades, only germinating when conditions change after the heatwave. This hidden reservoir of genetic diversity is proving crucial to the ecosystem's adaptive capacity. The Shark Bay recovery model offers critical insights for marine conservation efforts worldwide. Traditional restoration approaches for seagrass meadows typically involve labor-intensive transplantation efforts costing upwards of $400,000 per hectare. The natural recovery mechanisms observed in Shark Bay suggest more cost-effective approaches that work with, rather than against, natural grazers. The findings also challenge the prevailing conservation paradigm of protecting ecosystems from all disturbances. In some contexts, intermediate disturbance, like that provided by dugongs, may accelerate recovery and promote resilience. Conservation agencies in the Philippines, Florida, and the Mediterranean are now exploring how controlled herbivore access might be incorporated into seagrass restoration projects. In Florida's Tampa Bay, preliminary trials using manatees, close relatives of dugongs, in controlled grazing experiments have shown promising results, with 27% faster colonization rates in grazed plots than protected ones. These applications demonstrate how understanding natural recovery processes can transform our approach to ecosystem restoration, potentially making it more effective and less resource-intensive. The Shark Bay seagrass recovery challenges fundamental assumptions about ecosystem restoration in an age of climate change. Rather than attempting to restore ecosystems to their historical state, an increasingly unrealistic goal as baseline conditions shift, the emerging paradigm focuses on functional resilience and adaptive capacity. Dr. Sinclair's team proposes a framework they call adaptive restoration, which emphasizes process over fixed endpoints. We're moving away from the idea that restoration means returning to some idealized past state, Sinclair explains. Instead, we're asking what functional properties we want to maintain and how we can support ecosystems adapting to new conditions. This perspective shift has profound implications for conservation worldwide. It suggests that in some cases, the most effective intervention might be to protect recovery processes rather than trying to shield ecosystems from all change. For Shark Bay, this means ensuring dugong populations remain healthy enough to maintain their ecosystem engineering role for the seagrasses. This approach recognizes that in our rapidly changing world, the ability to adapt may be more important than stability. Understanding these recovery mechanisms becomes increasingly crucial as climate-driven marine heatwaves become more common. Research shows their frequency has increased by 34% since 1981, and this trend is expected to continue as global temperatures rise. The Shark Bay case study demonstrates that while ecosystems may not return to their previous state following such events, they can develop new equilibria with surprising functional resilience. This doesn't mean marine heatwaves aren't destructive. They absolutely are. The initial damage to Shark Bay's seagrass ecosystem was catastrophic, with cascading effects throughout the food web. But the recovery patterns we're observing provide evidence that some ecosystems possess previously unrecognized recovery mechanisms. These insights come at a critical time, as marine managers worldwide grapple with how to respond to increasing thermal stress events. By understanding how ecosystems like Shark Bay naturally respond to and recover from extreme events, we can develop more effective strategies for supporting marine ecosystem resilience in a warming world. The recovery of Shark Bay's seagrass meadows has implications beyond biodiversity. It's also significant for climate change mitigation. Before the heat wave, these ancient meadows sequestered an estimated 2.4–4.2 million tons of carbon. The damage caused by the heat wave not only halted new carbon capture but potentially released stored carbon back into the environment. Now, as recovery progresses, carbon sequestration is gradually resuming, while the composition of species has changed, with faster-growing Halodule playing a more prominent role alongside the traditional amphibolus and Posidonia species. The functional capacity of the ecosystem to capture and store carbon is returning. Researchers are closely monitoring carbon flux in the recovering meadows to understand how these changed communities compare to pre-heatwave conditions in terms of carbon storage efficiency. Early data suggests that while the carbon sequestration rate hasn't yet returned to previous levels, it's increasing steadily as meadow density improves. This recovery of a major carbon sink represents a significant positive feedback in climate regulation, demonstrating how protecting marine ecosystems can contribute to broader climate resilience. One of the key lessons from Shark Bay is the critical role of biodiversity in ecosystem resilience. Before the heat wave, the ecosystem was dominated by just a few species of seagrass. After the disturbance, previously minor species like Halodule uninervis have taken on more prominent roles. This shift in community composition has actually increased the functional diversity of the ecosystem. Different species have different temperature tolerances, growth rates, and reproductive strategies. This diversity of responses provides ecological insurance. When conditions change, species that were previously minor components can become crucial to maintaining ecosystem function. The research team has documented at least 7 seagrass species now playing active roles in the recovery process, each contributing differently to the ecosystem's regeneration. This demonstrates that conserving even seemingly minor species within ecosystems can be crucial for long-term resilience. Species that appear ecologically insignificant under stable conditions may become keystones during recovery from disturbance. This finding reinforces the importance of protecting complete ecological communities, not just dominant or charismatic species, as we work to maintain ecosystem resilience in a changing climate. Shark Bay continues to serve as a living laboratory for understanding ecosystem resilience in the face of climate change. Ongoing monitoring programs track the trajectory of recovery, providing valuable data on how marine ecosystems respond to and recover from extreme climate events. The research team has established permanent monitoring stations throughout the bay, using a combination of traditional survey methods, remote sensing, and emerging environmental DNA techniques to track changes in community composition and ecosystem function. This long-term monitoring is crucial because recovery isn't a linear process. It involves complex feedbacks between physical conditions, species interactions, and evolutionary processes that unfold over years and decades. The insights gained from Shark Bay are already informing conservation and restoration efforts worldwide. The bay has become a case study in international climate resilience planning, with delegations from marine management agencies around the world visiting to learn from this natural experiment in ecosystem recovery. As similar marine heat waves impact other seagrass ecosystems globally, the lessons from Shark Bay provide both practical guidance and reason for cautious optimism. The story of Shark Bay's seagrasses offers a rare note of ecological optimism in climate science. Not because the ecosystem remains unchanged, but because it demonstrates nature's remarkable capacity for adaptation and self-renewal when key ecological processes remain intact. Through the unexpected partnership between dugongs and fast-growing seagrasses, through genetic adaptation happening in real time, and through the emergence of new ecological relationships, this ancient ecosystem is finding a path forward in our changing world. This doesn't minimize the devastating impact of the 2010-2011 heat wave or suggest that climate change isn't a serious threat to marine ecosystems. Rather, it reveals that nature possesses recovery mechanisms we're only beginning to understand. The emerging paradigm of adaptive restoration challenges us to move beyond simply preserving ecosystems in their historical state, instead focusing on maintaining their functional capacity and supporting their natural resilience. As we face an uncertain climate future, Shark Bay reminds us that protecting ecological processes and biodiversity may be our most powerful tools for conservation. By working with nature's own recovery mechanisms rather than against them, we may find more effective and sustainable approaches to ecosystem management in the Anthropocene. The seagrasses of Shark Bay, with their dugong partners, are writing a new chapter in ecological understanding, one that offers both practical lessons for conservation and a much-needed message of hope. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for updates. Your feedback is appreciated. We hope to see you again.